All right, listeners, buckle up because we are diving headfirst into the world of financial independence. You guys have absolutely flooded us with fire content articles, tips, those avoid these mistakes lists. It's a gold mine.
And you're in the right place, because this isn't about just skimming the surface. We're going deep. We're talking unearthing the why, arming you with the tools, and tackling the psychology. It's going to be fun.
Totally. And speaking of fun, something really struck me going through all this material. It's not just about retiring early, is it? It's way bigger.
It's fascinating, actually. This desire for autonomy, for calling your own shots, it's not new. But what your sources tap into is this idea that work should serve your values, not the other way around. And that feels very now.
Right. Quitting the soul-sucking job, sure, that's in there.
Yeah.
But one article framed it as aligning your life with your values, and whoa, that hit me hard. And maybe that's what's different now. It's not just escaping work, it's designing a life you don't need to escape from.
Nailed it. And the sources you've given us, they cut through the noise, like that one article. Basically said, forget the gurus, forget day trading index funds, and patience are your superpowers.
Yeah.
It's almost radical in its simplicity.
Which honestly is probably why it's so appealing. It feels achievable, like you don't have to be a Wall Street hotshot.
Yeah.
But I'm curious for you, right now, what part of this whole fire thing speaks to you the most?
You know, it's that permission to want something different. We often default to the way things are supposed to be. These sources, they're challenging that. Even if your goal isn't early retirement, it's aligning your finances with what matters to you.
That's exciting.
Absolutely. It's like hitting the reset button on those default settings and designing a life on your own terms. Okay, so we've got the why, the inspiration, but let's get real for a second. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, right? There's some actual doing involved.
And this is where it gets strategic. Because as diverse as your sources are, they all hit on three key areas. The fire trifecta, if you will.
A trifecta, okay?
Yeah.
Lay it on us. What's the secret sauce? First up, the financial foundation. You've got to have it. Saving aggressively. And one source actually put a number on it, aiming for a 50% savings rate.
Whoa, 50%. Okay, that's a whole other level. Though I can see how that supercharges things, like strapping a rocket to your savings.
Exactly. And hand in hand with that comes tackling debt. Think of that interest like gravity, constantly pulling you away from your goals.
Debt, the ultimate buzzkill. Okay, so we've got saving, we're kicking debt to the curb. What's the third leg of this fire stool?
Investing. And here's where it gets interesting. Your sources are all about simplicity. Index funds are the name of the game. Remember that article that compared trying to time the market to playing roulette?
Brutal, but so true.
Right. So unless you've got a crystal ball, index funds it is.
No need to become a basement-dwelling day trader. Got it. But there's more to it than just picking the right funds, right?
Exactly. And the sources you gave us, they get that. It's the psychology behind it all, the patience, the discipline, the mindset shift.
Because knowing what to do with your money and actually doing it consistently, two different things.
Which is where we get to the often overlooked part of FIRE life management. This is where it gets really interesting, because now it's about mastering your own behavior, not just the markets.
So those three areas, the saving, the index fund love, and the life management piece, which feels most doable for you. And be honest, which one makes you want to hide?
For me, that 50% savings rate, both amazing and terrifying, like the impact is clear, but also, whoa. But it's a good reminder that this is a journey. Wherever you are right now is perfect.
Love that. No judgment here. We're all on our own paths. Speaking of paths, though, I feel like those common fire mistakes are lurking just around the corner, and your sources did not hold back. Get ready, listeners, because we are about to wade into the murky swamp of common fire fails. You know those mistakes we all make, those mental gremlins? Your sources did not hold back, and it's about to get real.
Yeah, sometimes a little reality check is what we need. It's easy to get swept up in the fire dream, but ignoring those pitfalls, that's a recipe for disaster.
So what are the biggest fire fails we need to watch out for? Give us a rundown.
Well, your sources were clear on this one. The number one mistake, even for seasoned investors, trying to time the market. Buy low, sell high. Sounds great.
Except the market laughs at our attempts to predict it. It's like trying to catch a falling knife. You might get lucky or you might get burned.
Exactly. And your sources had the data to back it up. One study showed that even pros struggle to beat the market consistently.
So unless you've got a crystal ball, trying to time the market is a fool's errand. What other fire fails should we be wary of?
This one's tricky. Confidence is key for big goals like FIRE, but overconfidence can be our downfall. That belief that we're somehow smarter, luckier than other investors.
Oh, that little voice in my head. This time it's different. I've got this.
And that's how you make impulsive decisions, risky investments, and derail your whole plan. Remember that article on fear of missing out? FOMO.
Oh, FOMO, the enemy of rational thought. It's like that friend who convinces you to invest in their cousin's startup because it's the next big thing.
Exactly. And speaking of getting rich quick, another big one is impatience. We want instant gratification, but compounding takes time.
Patience, the most underrated virtue, but so key for building wealth. There's that quote, the greatest wealth is the ability to appreciate what you already have.
Absolutely. Your sources talked about shifting our mindset from short-term gains to long-term growth. Remember that graph showing how even small contributions invested consistently grow like crazy over time?
That graph was a game changer. Proves that time, not timing, is the secret sauce. Okay, real talk. We've all messed up on the road to fire. Any confessions? What fire fails have you experienced?
Oh, I've fallen into the traps. Early on, definitely the overconfidence thing. Thought I could outsmart the market. Let's just say I learned a valuable lesson about diversification.
Been there. Diversification, not sexy, but it's like wearing a helmet. Protects you from the unexpected.
Exactly. And speaking of protection, another fail is neglecting risk management. It's easy to get caught up in building wealth and forget to protect it.
Right, because life happens. Expenses, job loss, global pandemics.
Exactly. A solid emergency fund, insurance, diverse income, that's your peace of mind.
Your financial fortress against the storm. Okay, we've talked about what not to do. What about the DOs? The actionable steps our listeners can take right now.
Well, from your sources, it comes down to a few key principles.
Okay, we've talked about dodging those fire landmines. But what about the proactive stuff? It feels like we're shifting from don't mess up to here's how to win, and I love it.
And the winning part is often simpler than we think. Your sources, they didn't stop at warnings. They're packed with solid advice, like fire strategies in their purest form.
Give us the goods. Where do we even begin?
Remember that article about fire levels? Not just retired or not, but those stages in between.
Right, like coast fire, which honestly sounds dreamy, working because you want to.
Yeah.
How did her source break that?
One example was this couple loved their work, but were burnt out. Crunched the numbers. In 10 years, with their savings, they could coast investments covering their needs, even if they downshifted their careers.
Genius. Finding that sweet spot where your money works harder, giving you flexibility.
Exactly. And then there's classic financial independence. Your sources were big on calculating your FIRE number, the one that covers your living expenses from investments alone.
Right, the 4% rule. But it's more than a number, right? It's what it represents, the freedom to design your own life.
One article nailed it. Financial independence isn't the destination, it's the vehicle. It takes you to a life of purpose, of meaning.
I love that. It's not about the money, but what it allows you to do, to be, to experience. Speaking of, what about those higher fire levels? Financial freedom, even abundance, that's next level stuff.
And your sources acknowledge that those require a different approach. Not just expenses, but having resources for bigger dreams. One article even mentioned real estate.
Okay, so maybe I am destined to be a landlord. But really, it sounds like multiple paths to fire, and the right one depends on your own goals.
Exactly. And that's what makes it exciting. It's not a cookie-cutter formula. It's about designing a fire plan that aligns with your life, what you want.
Less paint by numbers, more choose your own adventure. Love it. But let's be real. There will be bumps. Market dips, surprise expenses, life happening. How do we handle those curveballs?
One article emphasized a freedom fund, a separate emergency fund, but for those oh crap moments. A cushion so you can weather the storm without blowing up your whole plan.
Love that. Because unexpected things, they will happen. A safety net gives peace of mind.
Absolutely.
Huh.
And your sources went beyond the financial too. One article talked about a resilient mindset, being flexible, adapting, focusing on what you can control.
So your plan needs to bend, not break.
Right. Life rarely follows the script. Those who adapt, who pivot, they thrive on this journey.
Okay, we've got the tactics, the levels, the strategies, staying flexible. But I keep thinking about community, finding your people.
Spot on. Your sources got into the human side of fire connection, support, shared experiences.
It can be isolating, especially if those around you aren't speaking the fire language.
Absolutely. Finding your tribe people who get it makes all the difference. Online forums, meetups, even just one or two friends with similar goals.
It's like having your own cheer squad when you need a boost, or just someone who understands.
Exactly. This journey is about taking control, designing your life, but we don't have to go it alone.
We're all in this together, even if our paths are different. So, as we wrap up this fire deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners to remember?
That financial independence isn't exclusive. It's not just for the wealthy. It's a choice, a journey open to anyone willing to put in the work, to learn, to stay true to themselves.
Beautifully said. It's about empowerment, aligning your money with your dreams, creating a life of purpose, and hey, maybe even some early retirement fun. That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. We hope you've enjoyed this fiery journey.
Keep learning, keep growing, and keep those fire flames burning.
We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.